Good afternoon. I'm Christy Olds with the Connecticut Association of Realtors, and welcome to the CTR TV studio. We have two distinguished guests with us here this afternoon. We have Ron Phipps, who is the 2011 NAR president, and we also have Kevin Sears, who is an eligible candidate for NAR first vice president in 2023. Our goal this afternoon is to give you a chance to learn a little more about Kevin and his campaign, and to also have him answer your questions that were submitted by realtors from across the country. Ron is going to serve as our captain this afternoon, leading this conversation, so we'll let you get started.
Christy, thank you. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Ron.
Isn't this like deja vu? It was
like deja vu all over again. Yes.
I mean, I think 20 years ago, didn't we meet in maybe Massachusetts? Yeah. And you were commenting on the fact that there were 20 years of leaders lined up in front of you and said, I'm not patient. What was that, the Logan?
Yeah, so you were up there with past President Tom Stevens.
Right.
He was in town. And I had brown hair then. A lot's happened since
then.
So did
I. Actually, I had blonde hair then.
But I remember asking the question because I was a typical YPNer, impatient. And I said, for members that have something to offer the association, how can you expect us to get in line like the airplanes do at Logan Airport to come in for a landing?
Now the follow-up is, you've answered that question. What have you done in the intervening 20 years?
Well, I'm not going to talk about everything I've done, but what I will tell you is I've had a great opportunity to grow, to serve the members. In 1998, I was first asked to serve as a federal political coordinator, and I've been in FPC for 24 years now for the same member of Congress, who happens to be Richie Neal, and he's chair of Ways and Means. But my first committee assignment was in 2003. And since that time, I've served on 11 different committees, and I've chaired 5 of them. I've served on 16 different work groups, and I've chaired 3 of them, work groups and PAGs and task force. And I've been very, very fortunate to have served as a vice president of government affairs, now advocacy, a liaison, RVP, and that's all within the Realtor Association. And in the community, I've been involved there as well, and in the Commonwealth, I've been the chair of our Real Estate Commission for the last 11 years. So it's just been a continuing evolution and growth, and it's been a wonderful experience.
And in Massachusetts, it's not a state, it's a
Commonwealth. Yeah.
So we've got questions, as Christy said, from around the country. So let me start with some of the questions kind of to get the ball rolling. We, off of your CA, are going to have some additional questions, but let's start with something that is really important to a lot of our members, and let's talk about diversity. I've personally heard you speak passionately about DEI and the need for everyone to have a voice in our association. What ideas do you have to implement actions in increasing DEI inside and outside of the NAR family?
And that question is from Virginia?
I think that's from Ohio.
Oh, Ohio, yes. So thank you for the question. And diversity, equity, and inclusion is absolutely one of the most important things that we're talking about now for the National Association of Realtors. And let's go back to 2018, the 50-year anniversary of the Fair Housing Act. And that was the first time that the National Association of Realtors apologized and said we were on the wrong side of history. And so that put us on the path where we're at today. And I think about President Elizabeth Mendenhall, then John Smaby and Vince Malta continued the efforts. And last year, President Oppler challenged all of us to take the At Home with Diversity certification, to get the certification, which I did, and to do the Fair Haven training and the implicit bias, watch the video. And those are all wonderful efforts by the National Association of Realtors. But fundamentally, we're a grassroots organization. And I look to our local associations and state associations to continue those efforts. Utilize the tools and resources available from the National Association of Realtors. But this needs to be a grassroots effort where we can lift people up rather than top down. And I think about the Chicago Association of Realtors and the efforts that they have put into that and the way that they've engaged all of their communities and are so diverse and equity and inclusion. And I say, we don't need to invent stuff. In our business, it's okay to steal it from them, borrow it, do whatever we can, but I like to think that we can do this from the ground up. And my promise to the members is that we're going to have a wide open table. There's going to be a lot of seats at the table. And anyone that wants to have a seat at the table, I want to give you the seat. The only thing I'm going to ask is that you have the mental fortitude to be fully engaged. I don't want somebody just to sit in the seat to say they sat there.
So your last phrase actually ties into our next question from New Jersey, and that is, talk to us about your thoughts about broker engagement. Since broker engagement leads to agent engagement, explain the recipe. Why is that working, and what is your experience as to why it's been so effective for us?
Well, you're a broker, Ron.
I am.
I'm a broker. We both own companies, and we know how important it is to have our agents, our realtors, trained and professional. I think back to my first committee, the Political Communications Committee in 2003, and that's morphed into the RPMIC. But one of the key things that committee was tasked with was calls for action. And over the ensuing years, we realized we need to grow our calls for action. How can we do that? And that's when we brought the brokers in, and we branded the calls for actions, co-branded it with the National Association of Realtors and the brokerage, because the thought was that a member is more likely to open an email when it comes from somebody that signs their check. Okay? And so that's what we've been able to do to grow our grassroots political advocacy. We need to use the same efforts, the same tools to engage our brokers so that they can better educate our members. Because one of the things I'm hearing as I travel the country is, what can we do about professionalism? Right. We have the tools, we have the commitment to excellence. Unfortunately, only 100,000 of our 1.6 million members have signed up, and nearly 20,000 have completed it. We need that to be more. And I think by engaging the brokers and sharing this with them.
Kevin, one other footnote on the broker engagement and agent engagement, the calls to action. You saw firsthand how effective that was in policy. Can you just elaborate a little bit? Because a lot of our members who are listening hear about the program, but they don't understand why it's effective. How does it impact policy?
So when we do a call for action, and we're hoping to get our elected officials attention. Yeah. And when we do the calls for action and the broker is part of that, and all of a sudden we're getting 25% of our membership responding to that call for action, the elected officials pay attention. Yeah. And the beauty of this program is that you can drill it down and do state calls for actions and local calls for actions. And so there's no reason why members, their voices cannot be heard.
It's really amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
So we've got a question from Texas. What do you suggest NAR does to engage more commercial members?
So I really do appreciate that question. So thank you, Texas. I'm a residential broker, but I also specialize in property management, and I am a dues-paying member of IREM. And so I understand the needs of commercial realtors. I think better than most, yeah. And I was just in Florida a couple of weeks ago for their meetings and their installation, and Florida is doing something right with the way that they are engaging their commercial realtors. And so I think that we need to see where we're having successes, and then where we're struggling, and how can we implement a similar plan. But for me, I understand commercial issues. I am fully prepared to engage the commercial realtors, and I appreciate the question just because it is so important for us.
Awesome. Talking about questions for 1 minute, we want to let anybody know that if you are out there and you have a question, please put it in the Q&A of the webinar. We will try to get to as many of those as we can. You hear Ron mentioning that the questions are coming from all across the country. So if you do have a question, put it in the Q&A, and we will try to get some of those in as well.
So I have another kind of high thought question, specifically related to NAR operations. With the huge success of Second Century Ventures, particularly with DocuSign, how do you see the financial windfalls benefiting the membership, particularly since the funds stay within Second Century Ventures?
And where is that question from, Ron? Does it say?
It doesn't say.
Oh, okay.
It's
so
I can give you a couple guesses, Kevin, but it's a good question.
And that doesn't matter. You know, as I've had the opportunity to have a conversation with members, and I talk about the importance of the realtor remaining at the center of the transaction. I look back to the second century PAG that was done in the mid-2000s. And out of that PAG came the Realtor Party,
Yep.
as we know it, or the beginnings of it. The Citizens United case brought us the Realtor Party as we know it now. But the other thing that came out of it was the Second Century Ventures. And it was decided at the time that $20 million of reserves was going to go in to initially fund the Second Century Ventures. Another $5 million went in at some point, so $25 million. That $25 million has been paid back and then some.
Right.
The good news is for Second Century Ventures, it's a wholly owned for-profit subsidiary that has realtors on the board.
Yep.
And so the question is, how is that going to, the windfall going to benefit the members? Well, right now they have over 160 technology companies in their portfolio who at one time or another wanted to disintermediate us.
So Kevin, go drill down there a bit, because that's important. It's not just the equity we have in Second Centuries, it's what the investments are in.
So these companies wanted to replace us, and instead we've partnered with them, and they realized,
awesome.
no, we can be more successful if the realtor is more successful. Yeah. And so this continues to grow. Right now there are 5 REACH programs where they're mentoring companies. And there's 3 of them international, one in the UK, one in Canada, one in Australia. And there's 2 here in the United States, one focusing on residential real estate and the other on commercial real estate. So the last question was about commercial realtors and engaging them. Well, I think this is part of it. And so by continuing to grow our portfolio, we're going to develop, encourage tools that will make us better at our jobs.
And it's interesting, Kev, one of the things you're talking about is that Second Century has been a good investment for us, but also created competition in the market space. Wasn't Century Lock one of the investments in Second Century?
Yeah, Century Lock. I mean, I think the unicorn was DocuSign.
Right.
You know, and,
right.
and there are other wonderful companies that are part of the portfolio. I would encourage you to go to nar.realtor and type in Second Century Ventures and see the portfolio of companies that are there to help us. And since we're partners with them, we're going to get good pricing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's terrific. So let's, we keep circling around the advocacy piece. So let's talk. What is the importance and the role you feel consumers play in NAR's ongoing advocacy efforts? So we talk about what our involvement is. Share with us what the consumers that we engage with really can benefit and how they can participate.
So 2010, Citizens United was a Supreme Court case, and Vicki Cox Golder was president and established a PAG, the Political Survival PAG, which I had the great fortune to sit on. And out of that came the Realtor Party as we know it. And what we realized is we need to engage not only our elected officials and appointed officials, regulators, but consumers. Right now we have a database of over 10 million consumers who have said, we want to get information from the National Association of Realtors about important issues to our property ownership. And so we've been able to utilize that database for calls for action. So not only do we send a call for action to our 1.6 million realtor members, but we have the opportunity to send it to over 10 million consumers to engage them in issues that we find very important. I was able to chair a committee, the Community Outreach Committee, when we were around 9.5 million consumers, and that just continues to grow.
And Kevin, that outreach is not just on the national level, right? Because the mobilization we can do on a state level and a local level?
So as I said, the calls for action can be used at the state and local level.
Right.
We have the consumer database that if there is an issue in Hampden County, Massachusetts, we can scrub the data to get the consumers in Hampden County, Massachusetts to participate in our advocacy efforts.
And doesn't that give us an effectiveness or a tool that produces amazing effectiveness? It's fun to see the change from the association in 2010 from being a trade association to an advocacy organization. We're doing that well, aren't we?
We are the envy of in the world, really. We're the largest trade association in the world, as former President Bill Brown used to like to point out. And in Washington, D.C., other groups, they look at what we are able to do, the way we can mobilize our members and engage our elected officials. And it's incredible the power that the realtors have.
Kevin, there's a footnote to that one that always, in leadership, I don't think is clear to our members, and that is, when we do the calls to action and the advocacy, we always talk about the programs we're supporting, et cetera. But far more often, we're doing stuff to prevent stuff from being done to us. So can you talk a little bit about preventing stuff being done to us rather than just doing stuff for?
So there's no National Association of Home Buyers.
Right.
There's no National Association of Home Sellers. There's the National Association of Realtors. And it's up to us to advocate for property rights. The good news is we get to advocate for ourselves as well. And I'm not embarrassed or shy about the fact that I lobby for our industry. I lobby for our right to buy, sell, and transfer real property. And I think the thing is, with our engagement, we're able to nip things in the bud before they even become issues. Because as they're conversations, we get to stop it because of the clout that we have in Washington, D.C.
It's actually really exciting, and when you're not close to it, you don't see the effectiveness. You've had the privilege of literally being involved in creating the tipping point to make sure that it does happen when it's to our advantage and preventing it when it doesn't.
And I mean, I think the prevention, one of the things that I can point to is the reconciliation bill last fall in the third quarter. House Ways and Means was handling the reconciliation, and real estate was largely left untouched.
Yep.
And I would like to thank the FPCs out there who serve as an FPC for members of the House Ways and Means, finance committees in particular, because they were the ones that were grappling with these issues.
Right.
And we managed to be relatively unscathed, and it's because of their efforts.
So that's one of those classic examples where we prevented stuff from happening to us. Because I think that's really hard for a lot of the members to understand on the advocacy. It's preventive, not just promotive, if that is lack of a better word. Yeah. So as president of NAR, you will be faced with a number of critical issues at the same time. Let's talk about your management style. Talk to us about how you're able to work through lots of competing agendas and limited resources, both association resources, but also your resources and your ability to focus. Give us a sense of how you multitask and how you manage.
Well, what is that old saying? If you want something done, give it to a busy person.
Yeah.
And listen, I taught myself how to juggle at a very young age. And that's exactly what you have to do, whether it's running a brokerage, dealing with tenants and landlords in a property management company, or being a volunteer leader with the Realtor Association. And so obviously there will be some things that need to be prioritized. Right. But given the way that I was raised and learned in the business, it's to take the time to go through what the issues are, prioritize them, and give the time that's needed.
So there's one piece that you're actually very talented with, and that is you prioritize, you do triage in an amazing way, but you also delegate really, really well. So talk to us about the team on that, because you're really good at saying, I have this capacity, but I have a team to do so much more. Share that in this style, because it really speaks to how you work.
So one of the things I've said as I've traveled the country is I don't claim to have all of the answers. I never have, I never will. But what I do know are the people that have the answers. And I've always done my best to surround myself with incredible people. And I have an incredible team right now that's helping me on this campaign. I would not be able to do this alone. And so the importance is identifying those people, figure out what their strong suits are, and then putting them in the place for them to succeed. And let them take the credit, give them the credit, because when you do that, the members, they come out.
And we are looking at your team right now, giving everybody a chance to see
excellent.
some of those people who are helping you out and supporting you along this journey.
You mean you're not doing this by yourself?
I am not doing this by myself. And so this is a team, I have team members from all 13 NAR regions. And they're also working in the states in their regions and helping to expand out and getting state captains. And I'd like to thank the state captains for jumping on the campaign team and helping, because I cannot do this alone. Listen, I grew up here in New England. It really does take a village to.
Well, in New England, both of us are products of a process in which there was carrot and stick. I mean, when we messed up, we heard about it, right?
There was, people were never afraid to share
Their advice,
their advice,
even unsolicited.
good and bad. But what New England Realtors have done also, and this is a lesson that I've learned, and I try to bring this to my service at the National Association of Realtors, is that when somebody does something right, you tell them,
Right.
you thank them, and then you lift them up.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to thank the New England Realtors for being there for me, for setting me straight when I needed to be set straight, but for allowing me to stand on your shoulders to continue to advocate for not only our members, but for all property owners across the country.
And think about it, Kevin, you've just done what New England is so proud of, which is you get to be the flag bearer for a moment, but leadership is for life, titles are temporary. And that's really what this region has been really good in instilling in you, and you exemplify in a powerful way.
Well,
I mean,
so to that point, there's a question that you don't like, but I want you to ask. But I want you to ask it because it goes to exactly what you were just saying.
So the question is from Texas, and it says, "What do you hope to accomplish in this role, and what are some of your goals?"
Yeah.
I don't like this question.
So when I was interviewed in Florida last August, Kathy Watley asked me a question about what my goal for my year was going to be, or said, some past presidents have set goals. And I said, Kathy, I said, as a former athlete, I can't set the goal as an individual. This is a team effort, and the team needs to set the goals based on what the members say. And so I will be a wonderful teammate. I will carry the ball when it's handed to me, and I will very happily hand the ball off. Because what's the saying? Great players win games, great teams win championships.
Yep.
And if on May 6th the directors decide to vote for me, my plan is to hit the ground running, roll up my shirt sleeves, and become a wonderful teammate so that the National Association of Realtors and our members can win the championship.
That's awesome. So let me move just a little bit further down into the leadership piece, and that is, this region does it well, but identifying, mentoring, and training are really key elements, and in my opinion, a leader's most important role. It's succession planning at its essence, right? So three-part question. How do you find those people? How do you engage them? How do you get them to say yes? Okay, because that's a real challenge for us. We keep talking about it. And then how do you keep them engaged? How do you make sure you don't burn them out? So the three pieces: how do you find them? How do you engage them? How do you keep them?
Well, as I said, New England is a great training ground, and I'm sitting with one of my mentors. And over the last 12 years, I've had a tremendous opportunity to serve the association, to travel the country talking about the Realtor Party and RPAC, broker engagement, the value of being a realtor and our membership. And in those travels, I've come across members of all different sorts who I've been able to meet, get to know, encourage, support. But a key piece to that was from 2015 through 2021, I was able to sit in the room in Chicago when committee assignments were being done. And so 3 different national presidents asked me to sit in the room because of the people that I met. So as I traveled, so when a question would come up, who would be good to fill this position? Myself and the other people in the room, it wasn't just me, there was a team of us. We'd say, you know what, I met this person in Alabama, and they are passionate about that, and I know they will do a wonderful job. And so it's not about just having a Rolodex, but it's about knowing who these members are, and being able to, as I said, lift them up and put them in place to succeed.
And the interesting thing, Kevin, is you're saying you know them personally, so when you're making the recommendation, it's not merely a curricula vitae or a resume, but knowing that and recognizing that kind of as the overarching strategy. You've traveled the country. We talk about you being from New England. This is your backyard. The fact of the matter, your reach is across the country. You know people everywhere.
So I was in Arizona last fall, and I had a member come up to me and say, Kevin, I've served with you on different committees. We've known each other for 10, 11, 12 years. And, and I'm going to support you. I'm going to vote for you. And he says, but the thing that really meant the most to me is the fact that you've been here to Arizona before, and you've been here multiple times when we had struggles with RPAC. And you and some of the other RPAC leaders came in and helped us to achieve our goals. And he said, you aren't just here as a candidate, you've been here before. And I think I think about what Jerry Giovanello used to say when he was our chief lobbyist. It's you have to build the relationships before you need them. And I wasn't thinking anything about the position that I find myself in right now. I was thinking about how can we help the members, help the association, and help property owners.
So in the course of your 25 years of volunteering at National Association of Realtors, tell us that really obscure place where you checked in the hotel room and said, where am I? Where was that?
So I've woken up wondering where I am.
Yeah, I know that happens.
So one of the things that I taught myself to do is as soon as I check in, I put my bags down, I open up the little key thing, and I take a picture.
Of where you are?
Of the room.
So you remember the room?
Because
that's awesome.
When I'm in 3 different hotels in 5 different days, but the obscure place, that
I mean, you've been to Alaska, right?
I have. That wasn't obscure. That was beautiful. I went up for the Region 12 conference right before the COVID shutdown. But I've been to 47 of our states, and
have
3.
Have you ever gotten stuck somewhere where you just simply could never get
Yes. Luckily, I got stuck in Washington, D.C., but was able to rent a car and drive home.
That's a good
On
day.
that note, since we're talking about people across the country chiming in, we do have a question that came in from California. It talks about the large increase in home values during COVID. Is there any increased interest within NAR to raise the mortgage interest deduction cap of $500,000? And the footnote to that is, in the past, only high-cost states like California, New York, and New Jersey have shown an interest in this, and that question came from California.
Yeah.
So.
And thank you for the question. I know that our lobbying team and policy team is absolutely looking at this. Unfortunately, though, there's some more pressing issues when it comes to high-cost states, and it's SALT, state and local taxes, and getting that. There's the marriage penalty in there now. Getting the marriage penalty removed or expanding it. There's talk about raising it significantly. So I think what we need to do is look at, say, what would be the biggest benefit for the most to focus our efforts as to whether or not the interest deduction is. And the reason I say that is with the standardized deduction that was increased, almost doubled under the last administration, not as many people are
qualified.
Are filling out the Schedule A.
Right.
And doing all the deductions, the charitable and the interest deductions. So, but if we can get the state and local taxes increased, remove the marriage penalty, I think that would have a broader impact, at least initially.
Cool. So we've got a question from Georgia. What are your top 3 most important points, initiatives, or messages you would like the members to receive from you?
It's hard to say just 3. I think what I would like the members to know is that my leadership style, when I think about leadership and vision and advocacy and opportunity, my 4 pillars, it all comes down to the single most important thing, and that's the members. What's best for the members. We talked a little bit about my leadership style, and I've had the great opportunity of chairing many meetings. I want to make sure that the members in that room are engaged, that they all have a voice. There was one meeting we were at in 2016, and it had to do with Realtor Party, and we were 4 hours into the meeting, and there was one person in the corner of the room who I know is very intelligent, insightful, but he hadn't said a word the entire time. And so I said, before we go any further, I called out, I said, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I know you're thinking about things.
Right.
What can you share with the group? And I thought we were getting close to the end of the meeting. We ended up talking for another hour and a half.
Wow.
And for me, I wanted to make sure that everybody was given the opportunity. And at the end of the day, anytime I've been in a committee meeting and there's a decision that has to be made, I always think about what's best for the members.
And Kevin, that's a challenge for us in an organization where we have 3 levels. You started out saying everything should be from the ground up rather than the top down, but there's a perception by a lot of our members that we live in silo. You do not. You live in the business.
Yeah, I'm second generation realtor. I grew up in the realtor family. My brother's a realtor, my sister's a realtor. Another brother, I didn't tell you this, Ron, he's after 30 years doing something else, he's going to get his license. He's going to come in the business. My father's a realtor. He's a realtor emeritus. And so I'm fully engaged in the business of real estate. I listed a home Monday morning at 8 a.m., went live on the MLS before I drove to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. This morning I met with another seller, and I'm going to be listing that house probably next week after we get the pictures. So I'm fully engaged in this business.
Well, I'm thinking about it. What's exciting to hear is you're still providing a superior consumer experience for your customers and clients, but what you're also committing to us to do is provide a superior consumer experience for us as realtors when you lead us. Wow. I like that.
The busy people get the most done, right?
No, they do. So this is kind of a follow-up question to Chrissy's earlier question. It says, while the current market, and this is from North Carolina, while the current market has been great for sellers and providing great equity for homeowners, it's had a negative impact on starter homes and market rate housing.
Yeah.
I mean, what is NAR's role? What can NAR do to help with this challenge? That first rung of home ownership is getting higher and for many people out of reach. What can we do?
So about 15 years ago in Massachusetts, we realized that there's a negative connotation to the term affordable housing. And so we made a concerted effort to change it to workforce housing.
Right.
When we think about workforce housing and we're advocating for that, we're saying we want our firefighters, our teachers, our police officers to be able to live in the communities that they serve. And in the last couple of years, we've had some success in Massachusetts in our advocacy efforts to expand out, make it easier, make zoning less restrictive, and make building easier. So the reality is that the crisis that we're facing today didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to be solved overnight. And so what I would do is encourage the local and state associations to reach out to the National Association, use the Realtor Party programs, grants, resources that are available. We have a team of excellent professionals. We have outside consultants who can help you, whether it's with issues mobilization or advocacy campaign, to advocate for smart growth, more growth, affordable workforce growth. And so it's really up to us in our community to say we want to do this because it's the right thing to do.
You know, and you gave really interesting insight into the answer when you said we want the teachers, the firefighters, et cetera, to be able to live in the communities in which they work. That's a real challenge when you look at places like California, in particular, where an hour drive or an hour and a half is typical. In Massachusetts, you guys did a good job with that. Can you give us a specific on how you guys did that? Because firefighters in Mass actually do live in the towns they're working in.
For the most part, yeah. But our governor, he had a press conference a couple of years ago, and it was almost like we gave him the talking points. And he talked about how we have underbuilt by 40,000 units a year for the last 30 years.
Right.
Well, we can't make that up immediately.
Right.
But by acknowledging the problem to begin with, then you can work to develop solutions to dig ourselves out. I think back to 2013, I was in Chicago for a leadership summit, and the incoming president for the National Association of Realtors was Steve Brown. He was 2014. And so Steve gave a tree sapling to everybody in attendance, and he asked the question, when's the best time to plant a tree? And the answer is yesterday. Well, 20 years ago, but yesterday. Okay, well, if you didn't plant it yesterday, when's the second best time to plant a tree? That's today. So the problem has been 20 years coming, and we can't solve it overnight. But if we start today, in 20 years, we shouldn't have to worry about this type of crisis again.
And the experience in Mass gives you an ability to look at it on the national level, because the shortfall that we have in Mass is the same shortfall across the country. We have to address that nationwide.
Yes.
Cool. So I've got a serious question
Okay.
from Washington State.
Ooh, okay. The Pacific Northwest.
Does Bigfoot exist?
I'm pretty sure a realtor friend from Clay Elum is the one that submitted that question. And listen, it's not only the Pacific Northwest where Sasquatch rumors run rampant. I was vacationing with Molly and the kids last summer in northern Georgia, right near North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And there's actually a museum there dedicated to Sasquatch. And so listen,
Really?
I have never seen Bigfoot, but I've never seen Santa Claus, and I believe in him. So who am I to say whether or not Bigfoot exists?
You can put that museum on places to go.
I think we could do that. You could make it a NAR stop. I'm also intrigued. I think that you should also recommend to credentials that juggling be a requirement for it. I think that that would be a very good tool for selection, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
An additional talent, sure.
an additional talent.
There you go.
Should I-
Skills competition.
A skills competition. I think it works. So, I'm gonna love this next one. We live in a litigious world in which everybody is suing somebody and everybody is being sued, etc., including the National Association of Realtors.
Yeah.
So let's talk directly. NAR is involved in several lawsuits, and the lawsuits are going to be expensive.
Yes.
Talk to us about funding the lawsuits, and two, should we be trying to buy our way out, or are we really going to remain committed to principle as we go forward? I mean, we're talking significant cost.
Therein lies a large challenge for the National Association of Realtors, is the litigation.
Right.
One of the ways I look at things is I accept challenges, but I look for opportunities.
Yeah.
And these lawsuits are giving us opportunities, and we need to take advantage of them. Let's talk about the Department of Justice. The fact that our leadership team sued the government for specific performance, I was thrilled about when they pulled the carpet out from us last year, because working with buyers, sellers, tenants, and landlords, I've actually had to go to court
Right.
to force performance.
Right.
And the fact that that's what we're doing, I am thrilled. There's challenges with us, but where's the opportunity? The opportunity is right now we have the chance to do better. The fact that we agreed to the terms laid out by the Department of Justice, we've made the changes with our clear cooperation policy and with sharing, disclosing the information on the MLS. But where else we need to do better is, we talked about this earlier, broker engagement.
Yep.
We need to educate our members better. We're not working for free.
Right.
You need to do a better job selling your value. I heard our first vice president, Tracy Casper, talking in Florida, and she says, in our typical transaction, there's 183 things that we have to do
Right.
from start to finish.
Right.
It's-
And that's just on the listing side.
And that's just, yeah. So it's sell our value. And then once we believe it, educate consumers, elected officials, and regulators. Because if we do not let the consumer know and our government officials know that we add value and we are pro-consumer, they're just going to keep coming back at us. And
Well, and Kevin, I actually think you are articulating probably the single biggest challenge for us as a profession right now. We provide amazing value to our customers and clients. And I think that when you step away from all the litigation and all the theater and all the drama, it is obvious that the value is significant. But for 50 years, we've been defined as a cost, and we've been weak and inept at articulating our value. The fact that when you say the 180 items, I don't know who in our audience pays attention to the number of things we do specifically, but I'll bet the majority of people didn't think about how many specific tasks are involved. Let me go really directly to my observation and my question for you. Is there a role for the National Association of Realtors to help teach our members to better articulate their values to consumers? Because right now, we're not good at it.
the short answer is yes. And the reason is because we're being dragged into these lawsuits. And so we need to give the tools to our locals, our state associations, and our brokers to better educate. Here's the thing, I look at these lawsuits and what the Department of Justice is trying to do, our real estate market is the envy of the world.
Right.
Our multiple listing service is the envy.
It's a pro-consumer platform,
Pro-consumer
right?
envy of the world. And if that gets disrupted, the people they are trying to protect are the ones that are going to be hurt the most, and that's the consumer.
Well, let's drill down there for a moment, because if we eliminate buyer's agency and first-time home buyers don't have an advocate for them, how are they going to prevail against or in opposition to cash investors? Yeah. And do we really want to have a country of renters? I mean, is that dramatic? I don't know. Is it?
No, it is not dramatic. And when we think about fundamentally what the American dream is,
right?
It's home ownership. I've never heard anybody say, when I grow up, I want to rent a studio apartment. Right. When I grow up, I want to own a home. And you think about the benefits of home ownership in communities. Kids are healthier.
Yep.
Kids are smarter. Typically less crime.
Right.
And it's just better for the community. And I'll ask you a question, Ron. I'm sure you've rented a car before. Right?
Yes.
Have you ever changed the oil on a rental car or gone to the car wash before returning it?
No, it's good that I get it filled. And
so,
that's a struggle.
And so, but you think about that, and we want communities of home owners. There's a very specific need for rentals, and I'm in the rental business.
Right.
But home ownership is even more important to society.
And actually, Kevin, it's really interesting. You're building on the thing. Lawrence Young does this analysis of what the total family net value is.
The net value of a typical renter is about $5,000.
Right.
Typical value of a homeowner is 50 times that. It's over $250,000.
So if we believe in self-reliance, as a society, we want to encourage home ownership.
Yes.
And the vocabulary we're obviously using in NAR now is sustainable home ownership. We want people to be able to stay in their homes. I want to circle back a little bit on the campaign, because this particular subject, I think, causes a lot of us to get restless when we talk about the government and the lawsuits, et cetera. You have 4 pillars in your campaign. Yeah. Talk to us about it, because I actually think they capture what it is you're trying to bring to the National Association of Realtors. You're not recreating, you're just highlighting these are the pillars of your strategy.
Yeah, the first pillar is leadership. And for me, it's servant leadership. I love the fact, Ron, that when you were an officer of the association, your badge, your name badge, it said shepherd.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
It is.
And so I've learned from you, this is about servant leadership, putting the members first. Vision, I think back to, I was watching an E60 on ESPN one time, and Coach Steve Spurrier was being interviewed, and they said, Coach, at the beginning of every year, you tell the team you expect to win the national championship. Right? Talking about teams, right? And so this is when he was with the Gamecocks in South Carolina. He said, yes. And he said, but inevitably you lose a game. Right. So how do you handle that with the team? And he said something that just stood with me. And you and I have talked about this before. He says, there's a reason the rearview mirror is so much smaller than the windshield. It's important to know what's behind you, but it's even more important to see what's coming at you. Yeah. And so I have a very good grasp on the history of our association over the last 20 years. But I like to think that I'm even more wide open to where we're going than where we've been. Advocacy, that is just, it is, I was born on Election Day in 1971 as my father was being reelected to the Springfield City Council. And so when I say politics is in my blood, I mean it both literally and figuratively. And so advocacy.
You mean literally you were born on Election Day?
Yes. And so this, just community involvement, advocacy, it has just been instilled in me since I was a little kid.
But what you're not saying that I think is, I'm smiling at because you're humble about it, advocacy is about empowering others. You do that. That's why you're doing it. It's not for you, it's for them. It's for us.
Well, you can say that. I can't.
I know, but I want you to hear that because it's important. It's why you are so uniquely qualified to lead us. It's about us and about leading us to that next place. It's exciting.
Well,
So
and that next place is opportunity, and that's my fourth pillar. And I talked earlier about opportunity. I want to give members opportunity. If they want a seat at the table, I want them to be able to have it. And so, you know, when we're done, you know, you can go to my website, kevinfornar.com. I know Christy's going to talk about that before we end. But my cell phone number is 413-348-9631. That will be up as well.
repeat that, because they're not that fast.
We will put it up at
Put
the
it up
end
on
for
screen.
everybody to see, I promise.
Okay, you're gonna make. See, she's
Yes.
look at this. She's making sure we
But
get
it's
it right.
also, but it's on my website as well. And so, you know, what I've been telling the members as I've traveled is, if you have a want, if you have a need, if you have a concern, those are my wants, my needs, my concern. I do also throw in there if there's something you're happy about, because I think NAR is doing a lot more right than wrong. But
Agreed.
if there's something you're happy about, please let me know that too, because it's always good to get a call saying, I'm happy that this is happening.
Want to interject for 1 minute? We are
Please.
running a little short on time, so I know there's a final question that we wanted to get in there if we want to go to that one. And
Do you want me to go to that one? Because
If
I
you
wanted
can.
to know what
Okay.
NAR was doing well. Right
you can
now.
ask that as well. Go for it.
So before we go there, just give us one example. What's something that NAR is doing really, really well right now?
So even though Second Century Ventures is
Right.
a wholly owned subsidiary,
Right.
for profit of the National Association of Realtors, you know, outside of my wheelhouse of advocacy, I think that is one of the best things, best investments that the National Association of Realtors ever made is Second Century Ventures. And the growth that we are seeing there, it's incredible.
So Kevin, first, thank you. Thank you for this time, but thank you for your leadership, over the last 25 years that I've watched you directly. As a new NAR director, I know that you are qualified for the position. I know that. We in New England know that. The people who've engaged you know that. But I want to know why we should select you. What will you bring to NAR members? And very simply, what's your why? Why are you doing this?
When I think about the National Association of Realtors and the leaders that have come before me, and the fact that I am hoping to be one of our next leaders, I think about the fact that I have both the experience and expertise to join the team. And I say experience and expertise for a very specific reason. Experience is having seen it done. Expertise is knowing how to make it happen. The experiences that I've had, the National Association of Realtors, in my community, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, have prepared me to continue on the journey of leadership. And it is a journey. And I want to thank all of you that have been part of that journey and have supported me, have given me advice, and have just been there as just a rock that I can rest on. I'm not looking to rest now, but what I am looking to do is to roll up my shirt sleeves and get to work for all 1.6 million realtors across the country and our property owners as well. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. And I look forward to May 6th. And please remember, cast a vote for Kevin Sears for first Vice President of the National Association of Realtors in 2023. Thank you.
Well, Kevin, thank you for being here and being so open,
Awesome.
willing to participate, and willing to step up and serve. Ron, thank you for
Pleasure.
helping us get through this afternoon and bringing a little fun to it as well.
Yeah, you do.
We
Have fun,
always have to
yeah.
have a little fun. If anyone does have any questions or wants to learn more about Kevin, we will put up his contact information on the screen in just a minute. Website, phone number, all that. Reach out. I know he's willing to engage members from all across the country, and we want to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon as well.